What's up, guys? So today I'm going to be discussing why it must be the shoes. Now, outside of style, I don't know if many people really pay attention to how their feet are moving, reacting, and what shoes they're wearing when they go to the gym. Different styles of movement require different levels of tactile feedback and ability to control that. Now, tactile feedback is what happens when you touch something and your neuromuscular system reacts to that after understanding the surface, orientation, proprioception, and all these other big words. But I'm just gonna use these 5 pairs of shoes real quick to explain to you why each one needs to be considered for different styles of training and why you really should pay attention to what you have on your feet if you have nothing or anything on your feet at all. That's where I'm actually gonna start. Shout out to my guy Noah, shout out to my boy Coach Get Right, 2 big barefoot proponents, because in reality, our natural bare feet are the best thing for us regardless of the scenario. Now, of course, when we're doing things like sports that require traction on grass and things like that, we have now developed things that aid in our ability to perform. But in reality, as far as the mechanical function of our body goes, barefoot is the best. When babies are walking and learning to walk, regardless of their balance not being great, their foot pattern is actually pretty perfect. It's not until we start adding shoes that adjust the arch, crowd the front toes, right? Like bunch them together, lift the heel, all these things start to mess with our mechanical function, and we have to regain that and really pay attention to it every time we work out. So, barefoot being your best option, a lot of people aren't comfortable with that, right? Like we haven't walked around barefoot enough to get the callus and the necessary barrier between the ground and our feet. But what you can do is buy shoes that are as minimal as possible to help you feel those toes move individually, feel that big toe really press down, and get those feet to react correctly so that the rest of the body is set up in a kinetic chain, is working at max capacity to get you exactly the feedback and the adaptation that you want out of whatever movement you're doing. Some people wear those toe shoes. They are not stylish enough for me to ever put on. Shout out to toe shoe people. I would rather wear socks or barefoot, but this is my choice for my all-around minimal shoe. This is the Nike Hyperfield TR. I am a Nike addict, as you can tell, but this is one of the shoes I bought years ago and I love everything about it. It is pretty close to those toe shoes in the fact that this sole is very minimal. It does nothing but provide me with a barrier and some type of protection against the things on the ground. However, the Flyknit material up top is super flexible, and as I've worn them, they've broken in and allowed my feet and toes to move as they should. Now, one of the things to also notice is there's no real lace holes on here, right? These lace loops are really connected to the fly wire on the side, and what that does is allow the shoe to hug my foot. So I can pivot and stop on a dime and change direction and move laterally with force without the shoe sliding around on my foot, and I'm getting as much feedback as possible. As you can see, super flexible, super breathable, super stylish, obviously very high on my list. But the idea is it allows me to do just about anything in a close to barefoot manner. So I go with this when I'm gonna be doing some cross training, box jumps, I'm gonna include some deadlift swings, things like that, lateral motions. I wear these shoes because they hug my foot and become basically like a sock with a sole. And that's what you really wanna go for if you're doing something and you wanna get close to barefoot training. I would choose something that's as minimal as possible that allow my toes to move individually, allow them to spread out because they're supposed to. The feet are basically hands when it comes to the lower body. That's something you should think about. Again, Hyperfield TR, fire, had these for years, love them. I'd get another pair if I could find some. Next up, my all-around favorite shoe, just because it's my all-around favorite shoe, Jordan Cement 3s. Black specifically, I think is probably one of the greatest shoes ever made. One ton of cushion inside this shoe. It hugs your foot like a glove. Granted, this was made back in the 80s, and reality is, this shoe wasn't necessarily designed with the best technology out there, but you see it has an air bubble for some cushioning. It's pretty heavy, but I generally wear this shoe just for the style purposes when I'm doing upper body. If I'm gonna do some lower body stuff, especially if I'm going for the max performance value and max mechanical value, I would honestly take these off and do whatever move I'm gonna do in my socks and then put them back on. But from a style standpoint, it's great. The reason it's not too great when you're doing stuff like squats, lifts, and things that you need to produce power through the floor with is because this little air bubble does what it's supposed to, and it provides you with cushion, it provides you with give. The problem is the distance between where my foot is and the floor that give is exactly what's going to be detrimental to my lifts. It's going to make my foot sink, but not give me the tactile feedback to light up that kinetic chain, right? From the heel, we go to the calf, we go to the hamstring, glute, all the way up to the back of the skull. So I'm not gonna get the exact feedback that I need to really fine tune my training, really fine tune my power, my lifts, and my mechanics, because my foot is sinking into the floor. But what that is for is to absorb some of those ground reaction forces. Now, what that is basically is how much energy and force is put on the body when you are jumping or pushing off the floor or landing. And that is multiplied by your body weight a lot. So when you're running, the reason you need really good mechanics is because you're putting so much shock and force into the bones, the muscles, and the structure of the lower body. Every time your foot hits the ground, you want to make sure that it's mechanically sound so it dissipates correctly, it doesn't cause some type of imbalance or joint issue up the chain, but also you're getting the feedback to produce exactly the amount of performance and power that you want to. So this is basically a Timberland to me. You can wear this with anything. I just like it for style. Like I said, upper body days just to look dope. I definitely don't do too much lower body in this, especially if I'm gonna go for max performance. Now, running shoes come in all shapes and sizes. In reality, you should go to one of those running specific shoe stores if you get a chance to get on one of those things that tell you how your foot strike pattern looks and what type of contact you're getting on that foot pad. The Nike Sock Dart is my go-to running shoe for the most part. I have a couple different pairs of these. One, because it's super breathable and super light, so I'm not getting my foot weighed down at all. But the cushioning is fantastic, along with a solid amount of flexibility in the shoe. The issue is, it's not really great for any type of lateral movement. This would not be a shoe I'd recommend if you're doing any type of cutting, lateral movement, agility drills, because as you can see, there's so much play in the top, you get no support moving left and right. Your foot will stop on a cut. The shoe will stop on a cut, but your foot will keep moving. You do not want that. Trust me, not good for you. But for running, straightforward running, fantastic. It gives me just enough cushion. It doesn't give me too much more cushion in the back, even though it looks like it than the front, so my foot's not at a weird angle. I'm getting to feel the floor beneath me. As you can see, this stretchy material allows my toes to spread out and grip the ground the way they're supposed to. It's just enough support and just enough style for me that it looks very, very dope. That way I get to have a somewhat close to ground feeling when I run, but I get the protection of the cushioning in the shoe. Next up, we have the React Elements. I love this shoe. It's fantastic. Has a little bit more structure to the upper than this one does. As you can see, a lot of cushioning in the sole, but there's a little more structure around the ankle, right? So it gives you a little bit more stability if you were to do some type of lateral movement and turning and things like that, but not too much. I wear this shoe sometimes when I cross train, although it's not the best. Again, I'm not going for max power, so I don't need my kinetic chain or my posterior chain, to actually perform super, super crazy. But what I want to be able to do is allow some bendability, some flexibility in my foot, and some play. This cushion is fantastic. When I run, it feels amazing. And as you can see, because of the way the laces are set up, you can get this pretty snug to your foot. So it's not as free moving as this one if you're doing lateral movement, but still, if I'm gonna be doing something athletic, I'd go with something as minimal as possible to allow for my body to get all the feedback from the floor. Running shoes, great, maybe a little bit of cross training, but again, you wanna choose something that's appropriate for the movement you're doing. Now, I'm gonna go to the Dunks. My favorite shoes next to these of all time. Not this particular Dunk, but just the Dunks in general. Stylistically, it's amazing. It's a blank canvas. This is a 2007 CL pack. Was not a general release for all you hypebeast folks. But at the end of the day, a lot of power lifters and CrossFitters you'll see wear things like Chucks and things like flat sole shoes, because again, they're not trying to have the arch affected. They're not trying to have their foot sink into the shoe. They want to feel the ground below them. This shoe does that very, very well. And I wear this sometimes when I want to go deadlift or I'm going to go squat and I don't necessarily want to go barefoot and I just want my fit to look right. This is not a bad idea, but again, you have to consider it's because of the flatness of that sole. There's not a lot of cushioning, so I'm not sinking too far into the shoe without getting the ground feel underneath me. Now, these are things that I like to do when I go to the gym. It's something you should think about specifically because at the end of the day, whether you're going for athletic performance, whether you're a power lifter, whether you're going for a run, what you want is the most mechanical efficiency possible. The higher the mechanical efficiency, the higher the functionality of the body, one, the more likely you're going to be able to keep injuries at bay and protect yourself, but two, you're gonna get the right feedback to the neuromuscular system to allow you to adapt the way you want to. If I wanna build up more agility, I can't wear a shoe that's not going to allow me to cut without confidence. It's not gonna allow me to cut without my foot being able to plant and turn and get my ankle in a position it's supposed to. Case in point, I'm not a big fan of low top basketball shoes. That's just me. It's not a surprise that when Kobe tore his Achilles, Nike came out with that Kobe 10 that was a crazy high top, basically looked like a knee-high boot. Because the idea is you need that structure to be as solid as possible. Building up ankle mobility, building up ankle strength, and building up strength in those lower muscles is really important. To that end, I say practice. Toe separators are a great idea. Walk around barefoot, stretch barefoot if you can, learn to feel the ground beneath you, roll the bottom of the foot, all these things to allow for great foot health and great foot functionality, because that, at the end of the day, is your first contact. The rest of the body starts with the feet touching the floor. Do as best you can to make that a healthy and functional pattern, and the rest of it will go correct. That's why it must be the shoes. You feel me? I mean, at the end of the day, you want to look dope too. I do recommend that, because when you're dying in the gym, looking good is the last thing that's going to keep you anchored to what you're doing. Because when I look in the mirror and I'm dying, I'm ugly. But if the fit is dope, I feel a little bit better about it. Just some things to consider. If you want to see more content like this, where I break down where lifestyle and wellness intersect, go ahead, join the link, dojodc.com, join my email list. You'll get updates. We do blog stories. I do information. I do pieces on people, because the idea is to build a healthy lifestyle as far as it fits your lifestyle and not someone else's. Just some things to consider. Have a great day. Peace.